Hey everybody, and welcome to Epic Everyday, our weekday podcast for busy, overwhelmed Christians.
What are you looking at?
I'm trying not to look at you.
Good. Again.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Epic Everyday, our weekday podcast for busy, overwhelmed Christians who don't want to live in the crazy and instead want to find freedom and abundance and peace. I'm Liz Ferricks, and this is my husband, Evan.
You sounded really serious.
I'm trying.
I know, we just
Somebody's been making me crack up.
We just had a bunch of takes trying to get through that.
Well, if someone wasn't being so difficult.
I don't know what you mean. What are we talking about today?
So since today is the end of the week, we're going to talk about being complete. And in case you guys don't remember, being complete is being fully yourself, utilizing your entire self. You're not compartmentalized. And you're also fully engaged with what is actually happening at this moment in time, rather than being stuck in the past or the future or just living in denial.
Yeah, and it's important with relationships. I mean, we want to actually be with the person when we're with them.
Exactly.
And maybe this is an age-old problem, but it just seems harder than ever or easier than ever to get distracted, right, by your phone especially.
What were you talking about?
See? I mean, daydreaming's as old as time, but the smartphone is like an extra layer of, distraction. I mean, if it makes a noise, you got to look at it, right?
Seriously.
It's really difficult.
It is difficult. It's hard because you're so instantly connected to everybody. And I know for me, every time my phone rings, I don't get calls all that often, but I'm like, oh no, is it an emergency?
Sure.
So it's hard for me to just be like, just ignore it. They'll call again if it's a problem,
Well,
or same thing with Boxer.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a curiosity there. But with our girls, I mean, I feel like they grew up with a cell phone in the house all the time, and I guess it would just, if it rings, we run to the counter and look at it. It's like, how did we get that training? But it's I think it's, because I don't think it's necessarily modeled, but I think it's just so intriguing. This little thing made a noise, and there could be a cute picture to look at, or a message to listen to, or an emoji or something.
Yes.
It's very intriguing. And it takes us out of wherever we are right now.
Yeah, I actually tend to turn down my phone when I'm doing school with the kids because it's frustrating, being interrupted and being like, okay, get back to school now. We're restarting our day. So yeah, I mean, anytime you go out to a restaurant anymore, you see people that are sitting across from each other and each looking at their phones, which is like, why are you going out to dinner together? Mm-hmm. But
yeah, so it's something to fight for. I mean, we know our God loves relationships. He built us kind of hardwired to want to do it. And I think that's the problem with the phone. Like, you can build and maintain relationships with it.
Yeah.
We were talking about that earlier in the week, how we've got friends from across the country that we can talk to. Like, I mean, long distance calls, nothing new, but when we were dating, we were paying a lot of money to long distance call each other.
Yeah,
and now it's almost free. I mean,
right. Well, and even with Boxer, which is a free app, I mean, I talk to my best friend from Colorado like 3 or 4 times a week.
Yeah, or Skype or FaceTime or whatever. Yeah, it's incredible. So it's an amazing tool, but it's also
You end up concentrating on the person who is not actually physically there rather than talking to the person that's physically there.
Yeah. It's a big tell, I think. And I catch myself, just my phone doesn't even make a noise. And if I'm a little uncomfortable or not feeling connected to what's going on around me, I'll want to look at it.
Yeah.
And I'm aware of that. It's a tell. And I think if we see that in each other, that, oh, that person's doesn't really want to be here.
Yeah.
Or maybe their wife's in labor and they're waiting for a call. But I mean, it could be a tell.
Right. Yeah. And recognizing that when I have that urge, that means I need to like take a step back. Like, why am I disconnected from what's going on here? How do I remedy that situation? I think that's helpful to think through. Another one that I wrote down was ignoring what somebody's saying because you're like waiting for your turn in the conversation.
Yeah, that kills relationship.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you're not actually...
Oh, it breaks down complete.
Right. Yeah. Because you're not being present, and it kills relationship because you're not actually relating to the other person. You're just exchanging information. Mm-hmm. And the exchange isn't even complete because they're giving you information and it's kind of going in one ear and out the other while you're waiting for your turn to talk.
Yeah. They're just giving you information, then you just give them information. They may not be related.
Right. I think it's so interesting how the art of conversation has been lost in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. Maybe because of like we were talking about yesterday with Facebook, how you put information out there and people can respond or not, but they can still see the information. So it's like this, you're just putting information out without any actual relationship.
I feel like that happened where somebody I don't talk to a lot. I don't remember the specifics, so maybe I shouldn't even bring it up. But I felt like I learned something about them on Facebook, but it was probably like weeks later. And then I mentioned it in person, and they were like, "What?" And then I had to be like, "I saw it on Facebook," and then because that wasn't really the context of our relationship at that point that I would know about this thing because we never talked about it in person. But then it was out there like public knowledge, and
right.
So then
his
brain
awkward.
had to shift into like, oh, Evan knows about this and we can talk about it, and you could see the Rubik's Cube kind of fall into place and then have a conversation about it. But it probably seemed just random out of the blue because it wasn't in the right context,
Yeah. And I think it's so interesting when you talk to somebody about something they posted on Facebook because it's like they forget that you're even involved in that, unless you commented on it or whatever.
Yeah. You could say, I like what you said on Facebook. But then they'd be like, wait, you didn't actually like it on Facebook.
Why didn't you like it?
They want the little thumbs up guy and not a verbal.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't count unless it's actually digital. Uh-huh. Another one that I wrote down was leaving room for people to be complete around you, which part of that is listening and just being able to say, that's interesting. Kind of along with the listening thing too, jumping back, I was going to say, we see that so much in discussions about politics. Like nobody is actually taking in the information and judging it based on the merits of the information itself.
Yeah, it seems like, yeah.
Or not nobody, because some people are, but very few people. It seems like a lot of it is just yelling back and forth rather than an actual discussion.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of minds made up already and then just lots of problems. Yeah, it's impossible to communicate. And then if you want to communicate and an opponent is like, you listen to what they said, you're automatically a bigot or something.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting. Like just by creating that space, by saying, okay, I'm going to listen to you say what you're going to say without me
validating it or
judging you. Right. Yeah. Either way. And just letting them be who they are, be where they're at. Mm-hmm. Because that's when people can change. Like that's the magic of listening, is that when somebody has space to just deal with their own problems, they have that safety and that, it shuts off fight or flight so that they actually can grow and change. It's amazing.
Yeah. To bring that back, to bring it down to more of a personal level, like I think vulnerability builds trust. I think in general, I mean, you still want to do safe tests, but I think, especially in the church, it can and is honored. I mean, it's not always,
Right.
but I think
Yeah, it's definitely not always.
yeah. But I think in my mind at least, and I think a lot of people struggle with this, vulnerability automatically equals weakness. But if we can shift that a little bit and be like, this can be a strength, and it can actually.
Right.
I mean, I was at this, a men's meeting, and I made myself be vulnerable, and I got this amazing feedback that they were like, that makes me trust you. That makes me like you. That makes me want to know more about you.
That's because you're awesome, babe.
But but I was feeling the same way about the men that were also being vulnerable. It's like,
Right.
oh, you're like a real person now, not just
Right.
like a guy who looks like you're probably doing just fine. I mean, you've got your clothes are all clean and your hair's brushed, so good job. Everything's fine.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, I think it's easy to judge based on outward appearances, and it gives us kind of a one-dimensional perspective on somebody. And it's not until we start hearing what are their problems that we connect with them.
Yeah. So it's like a twofold thing with complete. It's like I'm gonna be aware of me and what's going on with me and put out into the environment, which I'm also aware of because I'm being complete, this vulnerable part. And if it's reciprocated, there's a growing relationship there.
Yeah, being somebody that's safe enough, that if somebody does share with you, you can say, wow, that sounds hard. That for me, that is so hard because I am a problem solver.
Yeah.
And it has been a journey to be able to just be like, well, yep, because my first response is like, well, have you tried these 5 different things? Because easy fix. But I have had to learn, if it is a problem that I can solve, it's not the real problem. Right. Because just like we were talking earlier this week with mindset stuff, every single time you are the problem. I am the problem, and until we deal with whatever it is about ourselves that's compounding the circumstances, you can change your circumstances as much as you want, but you will always end up in the same place.
Yeah. And that's where the self-examined life comes in. I mean, if we're not examining ourselves thoroughly enough to see what some of those hang-ups are, like if I never remember to take my vitamins, am I just forgetful, or am I self-sabotaging myself, or do I not have a good system in place? I'm not going to know how to fix that problem without some investigation. And I think all too often we're just like, just try harder tomorrow, I guess.
Yeah, this is so true.
And we can do that with relationships too. I mean, so yeah, I guess, yeah, if you see that in somebody, it's like, well, just put a reminder in your phone and then you always take your vitamins. Like if that's the answer, that's not getting down to their thing behind the thing. Like if somebody shares that problem with me.
Right, yeah. It's really hard to just listen and let people come to their own conclusions about what the thing behind the thing is. But if you don't give them the space, if you're not the kind of person that they can be complete with, then, they never figure out what the thing behind the thing is, and they just keep trying harder the next day.
The root of all of the ability to do any of this, like we've been talking about all week, is our connection with God, our relationship with God. Even if you are vulnerable with a not safe person, God can still cover that. If you're fully connected to Him, like there's enough security there to handle a safe test that doesn't go right. I mean, that's why they're called tests. Sometimes they don't go well.
Yeah.
Our relationship with God is the only thing that can kind of buffer that.
Yeah, and we can recognize that that's something about them. Like it really has nothing to do with us.
Yeah.
Because if we do a safe test and they respond poorly, I mean, that's not our fault.
Yeah. And I also think it's important, like we're talking so much about the importance of groups this week, and really, there's all these little groups, like our family's a group, and our our church and our work and whatever. There's these groups, and they do such a big. They're such a big part of our definition of who we are, because they're that environment, our situation that we're in. But it can't be our primary, like the number one definition in the dictionary. It can't be our group. It's got to be our God.
Yeah.
And then, but it's really high up there. It's, I think, probably number two, our group identity.
Right. Yeah. When we were talking about it earlier, before we started recording, I was thinking about that quote from C.S. Lewis about how when his friend died, that he had less of all his other friends because they brought out different aspects of that person's personality.
Yeah.
You know?
That's a powerful story.
Yeah. So we do need each other.
Yeah.
You know? We need to be able to be uncompartmentalized by ourselves, regardless of who we're with. You know, I can't rely on you to bring out home Liz when we're in church.
Uh-huh.
But we still, you know, we do need each other because we do bring out different parts of each other. All right. We love you guys and we are praying for you. Hopefully, you know, this can give you some things to think about with relationships. What it actually means to be complete, what it means to allow room for other people to be complete. And that stuff is really important.
Yeah. It's worth trying to get good at.
Exactly.
And it's possible.
Mm-hmm. Thanks to everybody that's been sharing the show. We really appreciate it. If you have found this podcast helpful, please do continue to share it with your friends and relations.
Yeah.
Because the more people that are living in the CSCs, the healthier the body of Christ is. Next week, we are going to keep talking about the holidays.
Yeah,
we're going to come back to them.
The week before Christmas, next week.
So crazy. Can't even believe that it's already here.
Yeah. Well, and where we live, it's been like 2 weeks ago, it was like 75 degrees.
Yes.
Now it's finally sort of like freezing, but really bizarre.
Mm-hmm. All right. Have an awesome weekend, and we will talk to you guys on Monday.
See you.